This is the bibliography. It says selected resources and initiatives in the packet. I think it's page 3 it starts, or maybe 6. And I can just point out a couple names, and you can look at this later. But I have some examples from all of these areas of people working in the area. Like in the biblical text, I mentioned my book, but the people in Norway, a big project. The Society of Biblical Literature, our largest society of all scholars studying the Bible. They meet once a year. Also, the International Society of Biblical Literature now have a program unit in their meeting devoted to the subject of children. So it's very interesting when you start to look at it. Also church history, like Steve Osmond, bottom of the page, Loving Family in Old Europe. Very interesting historian, church historian, and started to look at issues of the family and children. Or historical theology we talked about. In systematics, like the second person, Jerome Berryman. He is the one who started Godly Play. Maybe some of you have heard about this faith formation approach. But he's also writing about what theologians have said about children and presenting his own theology of childhood. Another name in that area is Jensen. It's on the first page. David Jensen, Graced Vulnerability, A Theology of Childhood. In the area of ethics, there's a lot on children's rights, like on the first page, Jackson, The Best Love of the Child, Being Loved and Being Taught to Love as the First Human Right. Or Marshall and Parvis wrote a wonderful book, Honoring Children, The Human Rights of the Child in Christian Perspective. Excellent book. Another person from Germany also wrote about children's rights and ethics. He's on the second page, Frank Searle, if you read German, an excellent book. And then John Whitty, just a little further down on that second page of the resources. He is an amazing scholar at Emory University who has a center on law and religion. And he writes amazing books about legal issues in the history of Christianity, and he wrote a very moving little book, The Sins of the Fathers, The Law and Theology of Illegitimacy Reconsidered. So that's a very interesting book. And I listed on here several wonderful initiatives. I just point out that I mentioned the Society of Biblical Literature has a program unit devoted at its meeting now to children. It's called Children in the Biblical World, because people see you got to talk about it. Also, the American Academy of Religion, that is the meeting of all scholars in all areas of religious studies and theology. It could be Islam, Buddhism, Christianity, across the spectrum, teaching in the area of religious studies and theology in the United States and abroad. About 8,000 people come to this meeting. It has many program units, but now one program unit is devoted to childhood studies and religion. And many other papers outside that program unit see, I have to talk about the family and religion and children. So I actually helped start that program unit at the American Academy of Religion, and this just shows you the power of persistence. Because about 12 years ago, I wrote to them, said, we need a program unit on children. And they said, you can do children in many other areas. There's already women's studies stuff. There's disability studies stuff. You don't need a special subject on children. So, but I was very persistent, and I changed the title from Children and Religion to we need a program unit on childhood studies and religion. And then it sounded like, I see. Yes, it's an area of study. Yes, okay. And it was approved. And they are very, very dynamic program units. A lot of people want to work with them, people in history, theology, media studies, and religion. So it's just exciting. Also, the Search Institute for Faith Formation on page 3. There's many, many resources in the area of faith formation, practical theology. John Roberto, just for some of you know, he just wrote just recently another book now on intergenerational ministry, which is an exciting area of ministry right now. And that just came up. He has a nice website too, and the Search Institute.